There's Dad over there.
Ooh, I just love all the new things Kmart has here.
Oh, I can see that.
So that's the new Super Nintendo Entertainment System.
What about it?
They say it has 16-bit technology, whatever that means.
Oh, I see. What else do they say?
That it has 3D graphics and digital stereo sound, and that Super Mario World is included.
Okay, we'll get it for him. So, how long did he work on you?
About 2 weeks.
There are a plethora of reasons that games get canceled, and games have been getting canceled from the onset of the industry. There are thousands of games that never made it past that finish line, and I want to take a look at as many of them as I possibly can. It's always fascinating to me when a game gets a write-up in a gaming magazine and is fully completed, only to never see the light of day. This is one of my favorite series on the channel because there's such a wide range of canceled projects to delve into, and I never know what to expect. So join me as we take a look at 5 games for the Super Nintendo that were never released. The first game we are taking a look at today is Atmosphere, which was developed by Beam Software in 1994. This is based on a popular board game in Australia that was originally known as Nightmare. The board game in its original form utilized a videotape that functioned as a timer. At random points in the game, a character known as the Gatekeeper appears on the tape in order to taunt, reward, or penalize players. Honestly, I think the board game sounds pretty cool, and I had never heard of this series before. I guess they have released more modern iterations over the years, with the VHS being replaced by a DVD and ultimately a mobile app. The Gatekeeper in this game gives me Crypt Keeper vibes from the 1972 film.
Perhaps you?
This video game adaptation is an action platformer that has you attempting to complete a series of levels while the Gatekeeper appears at random times in order to attempt to slow you down. I think this is a really neat idea. Sometimes you'll be transported to a mini-game, or something will appear in the level in order to impede your progress. I also think the use of the digitized voice is pretty effective. You are presented with a map at the start of the game and choose which level you want to go to. I think the graphics for the most part aren't bad, giving you some fun spooky vibes. I very much enjoy the dancing skeletons and the monster disco here. The sound design is also fairly good with some decent tunes and sound effects. The biggest problem I had with this game was the level design. Many of the jumps here are barely reachable and led to a lot of frustrating moments while capturing gameplay footage. It's my understanding that this game is anywhere from 80 to 90% complete. There's one level that is very incomplete though, ending quickly with a "The End" written on the wall. Is it a great shame that this game was never released? Well, really, what was completed here does register as a fairly mediocre game that I doubt would have really stood out amongst the competition at the time. As I said, there are some interesting ideas here that I think are really cool, but I don't know that it was any great loss for this game to have not been released. That being said, I am now dead set on playing this board game. I do think this game is worth looking at if you're generally interested in unreleased games, and loading up the ROM will keep you occupied for a few minutes. Also, if you're a fan of the board game series, you might as well give it a look.
You cheated!
Up next, we have Cornbuster, which was developed by Engine Software in 1994. This is a brick-breaking game a la Breakout or Arkanoid, but with scrolling levels. The story to this one is top-notch. You play as Globy, who wakes up to find that someone has stolen all of the corn in the entire world! This means that you cannot have your favorite breakfast, leading you to suit up and right this terrible wrong. I'm a pretty big fan of this genre, so I was looking forward to checking this one out. Graphically, it's not bad with some bright colors, and we are treated to this eye candy. Row. The music, while not bad, gets very repetitive and tends to overstay its welcome during levels. The music during the map here sounds awfully reminiscent to I Think We're Alone Now by Tiffany. There is an overworld map that includes a shop where you can buy power-ups, extra lives, and can play a mini-game to try to win more money. Money is gathered throughout the levels, which also includes different power-ups, power-downs, and additional mini-games that are triggered if you hit the icon with the ball. There's a lot that I like with Cornbuster, but it is not without its issues. I think the ball velocity could have used some tweaking, and I think the levels overall are way too long. The long levels, coupled with the repetitive music, leads to some boredom after a while. There are also a lot of grammatical and spelling errors, and glitches and bugs abound during the experience. It is my understanding that this game was around 70% complete, so I'm sure some of these issues probably would have been addressed before release. I did learn through my research that a few years back, Pico Interactive took this game and fixed the bugs and made it 100% playable and released it on a cartridge. I'm still counting this as unreleased though, because from my understanding the original creators were not involved in the completion, and it still was not properly released during the lifespan of the Super Nintendo. If anyone could tell me if the original creators were in fact involved with the Pico Interactive release, I would really like to know that, but as far as I could tell, they were not. I'd say this is a fun one to check out for a few minutes, especially if you're a fan of the genre. This next one is Mickey's Playtown Adventure, A Day of Discovery, and it was developed by Visual Concepts in 1994. This is an educational game aimed at children that was set to be published by High Tech Entertainment. The player takes control of Mickey and explores the game world, interacting with other Disney characters and playing mini-games and solving puzzles. I think the game looks pretty good, capturing that Disney feel fairly well. There are elements of the game that almost feel like a point-and-click game in the way that Mickey interacts with certain aspects of the game. I will say that I think it's bullcrap that I get lumped in with 8+ as my age. What the f***, Disney? I'm older than that. And I'd like you to reflect it and not make me feel bad about it. There are many different gameplay elements incorporated into the game, with there even being some platforming involved at certain points. These platforming elements can be pretty frustrating due to inconsistent collision detection and unresponsive controls. There's really not much for me to say here. For a children's game, I think it's actually pretty good. This is far better than some of the released children's games that I've played in the past, although I think some elements of the game might be too advanced for some of the younger ages who might want to play it. It is my understanding that this was pretty much complete and ready to go. If you're a Disney fanatic, this might be interesting to take a look at for a few minutes, but it is definitely designed to be enjoyed by a younger audience. My favorite part of this game is how frickin' thirsty Minnie is for Mickey. Keep it in your dress, Minnie, and have some frickin' self-respect, miss.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Up next, we have Fireteam Rogue, which was developed by Accolade between 1994 and 1996. Fireteam Rogue is an action-adventure game that was very ambitious for its time. The developers had claimed that it would have more than 100 hours of gameplay. There was a lot of money spent on the development of this game, but it seems that personality conflicts in the team paired with an evolving gaming industry doomed the project to cancellation. There are some pretty neat ideas in this game. There are 4 characters to choose from, with their own levels to play and their own attributes and abilities. There are also several different power-ups to utilize. In addition to the main platforming levels, there is also a flying stage for each character that can be entered by jumping into the aircraft. I really wanted to like this one more than I did, but everything is so bland and uninteresting. The level design is lackluster at best, and the gameplay is limp. I know this is still an earlier build, but this game just lacks character and fails to interest. The 4 characters do not feel good to control, and like I said, these levels are pretty dire. Those flying stages aren't any better and are just plain boring. The best thing about this game, in my opinion, is the music, which I actually find pretty good. There was a lot of hype around this game back in the day, with a lot of money spent on promotion and plans for a comic book series in the future. It seems that overambition had a lot to do with the demise of this game, and it makes me wonder what might have been if more focus had been placed on making a fun game instead of blowing people's minds with the scope of the project. Definitely an oddity worth checking out for 5 minutes, but you probably won't get any more out of it than that. Our last game today is Steven Seagal is the Final Option, which was developed by Tech Magic in 1994. I'm going to let Electronic Gaming Monthly give you the rundown on this one. No, it's not a movie, but it's pretty darn close to one. You play as Steven Seagal out to take on the forces of crime as a one-man army. As you brave the many levels, you must master moves which will keep you from an early grave. And when fists aren't enough, you have your blades and your gun. Steven himself was an active participant in this game. All the characters are digitized and rotoscoped for a new level in realism. The time has come for the Final Option. I was looking forward to checking this one out, but also apprehensive at the same time. I was hopeful that this would be a joyful dumpster fire to jaunt through. I'm just gonna tell you, I'm not a big fan of Mr. Seagal. I find his acting to be questionable at best, and he does not seem to be a very good person from what I hear. I was also worried, though, that it would be a complete mess that wouldn't even be enjoyable to laugh at. I must say, this is actually better than I expected. Now don't get me wrong, it's not really that good, but it was much more competent than I had expected. There is, thank goodness, a lot to poke fun of here. just look at how he moves. That does not emit an aura of danger, in my humble opinion, and the screams when dying are priceless. But really, it's not really awful, just extremely mediocre. You can punch, kick, throw knives, and shoot your gun. The controls are laggy, reminding me of a cinematic platformer like Prince of Persia with the way jumping is handled, and just movement in general. The music, while not horrible, isn't anything special, and the digitized graphics did not age very well. I don't know how close to completion this game was, but I'm not surprised that it wasn't released. I can't imagine it would have been very successful. It probably would have gotten lost in the shuffle. I bet you though, had I rented this as a kid for a weekend, that I would have not entirely regretted my decision, and I probably would have had some fun. Definitely check this out if you're into licensed 90s weirdness. There's an odd charm to this one. And there we go, 5 games for the SNES that were never released. Let me know what you think of the games. Have you ever heard of any of these? Have you played any of these? Do you remember ever seeing any of these advertised in gaming magazines back in the day? Are there other unreleased games for the Super Nintendo or other consoles that you'd like me to take a look at? Definitely go check out the Unreleased Games playlist to see more. I hope everybody has a beautiful day, and I will see you next time. Bye. I want to give a quick shout out and thank you to our channel members. A big shout out and thank you to Sad Vlad, RetroCart Collector, Viros Vault, Jeremiah Thomas, CoolCat18, Lost in Thought, and Ronan Sid. If you would like special perks such as being shouted out at the end of videos, please check that join button down below.
And understand one thing, if I'm gonna try to save you, and if I'm gonna try to help you, you need to talk to me, you need to listen to what I say, when I say, how I say, and if you don't, I will leave you here to get eaten by the f***ing jackals.